Rocking and rolling. It's education.
Oh my
All
gosh.
right. So, welcome to, I am calling this is really official because I have a name. I'm calling this series of conversations Three Questions.
Mm,
Because, as you know, Lorena,
yep.
I gave 5 questions to everyone that I'm talking to and asked people to
Hmm.
choose three. And
Yeah,
we talk about stuff around that.
that's
And
right.
I am so honored to be talking
Hmm.
with you, Lorena
Yeah.
Germán. You are a powerhouse to me.
Oh,
I feel so honored that I'm able to I feel like in the time that I've known you, I've been able to like high five each other as we like pass in our profession. Do you know what I mean?
yes.
We haven't had like lots
Yep.
of time together, but I feel like every time I
Hmm.
see you, I just want to be like, you rock, keep it up, keep going. And there's a lot to high five with you, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you
Lorena,
too.
oh, well, we're talking about you first because I'm introducing you
Okay,
because
fine.
you,
Fine.
of course, are the co-founder of both Disrupt Techs and
Mm,
Multicultural Classrooms.
yeah.
You are the author of books like The Anti-Racist Teacher and Textured Teaching and
Hmm.
many other publications. When I went on your website, I was like, damn, that's a lot.
Right.
You're busy.
Yeah.
And then you're doing all of this, I have to say, just as a fellow parent, you're doing all this with raising multiple children, more children. Yep.
And I
And
would
it's
say that
you
the
do it with
third
more
one,
grace than I do. So I don't even know how
the
you do it.
third one really counts for like two.
Yeah. Because of their personality or just the
Yes.
numbers of children that are in your care?
No, the personality.
The
Yeah.
personality. Yeah. Yeah. It seems like that happens as they get younger. You have more and more. Does it stop at some point? Like if you have 7 kids, does the seventh kid just come out like super responsible, there to take care of you? Or do they
I
just
will
get
never know, Kate.
progressively hellish?
I will never know because this is it.
This is it? You're done,
This
huh?
is it.
All right, you
We
heard
are
it here,
finished.
folks. You heard it here. It's recorded on
This
camera.
is all.
You're done. You're
This,
done. It's really helpful for us because we can say we're done and we are done. There's nothing that's going to
right.
happen. So I can be like, it's not going on. Anyway,
Yeah.
too personal.
Yeah.
It's very nice to
We
be
did
talking with you.
we took the necessary steps to make sure
Well done. Well
that
done.
we're done.
High five, everybody. Good job. Good job. Yep. Yep. Gotta love it. Gotta love the
And then
kids. I
Kate,
want to say that. I love the children. I love them very much.
love
Being
the
a parent's the
children.
best. I love it. Yep. It's made my life
Love the
meaningful,
children.
all that. And every
They're
day
amazing.
is a health food. Yep. Yep. Sounds about right.
Yes. And I always want to high five you, Kate, because the two of you do so much work. And your work is always, I mean, there are folks that and who do this work alongside
Mhm.
us as well, and I have different perspectives obviously on everybody from outside, but the two of you, I feel like words like care, love, gentleness come to mind.
Thanks.
I know that everything that y'all do, you're so caring of these teachers, and so
Yeah,
I
you know,
want
I
to high five
relate
you
to
for
that with
that.
you because I think you and Roberto also have a thing of like we kind of give a lot away. You know what I mean? Like the two of us pairs were like, hey, let me just give this stuff to you. Do you know what I mean? Like, let me just here take
Oh,
some stuff. And I always
yeah.
have appreciated that about the two of you because obviously we're here as a business. This is how we make our
Right.
living. This is how we
Right.
support our families. But I'm conscious
But
of
we
it
want
not being
success
about
to
money. I
be
don't want it to be about
right.
money. I don't want it to be about
Right.
profits or any of that,
Right.
right? I just want
And
to
I
take.
want success to be accessible.
That's right. That's right.
That's how, are we doing all of this work for a million reasons? Yes, but also because I selfishly want schools to be better for even my own kids
That's
and my
right.
nieces and my nephews, and right, like, and so if me giving something away means that that's going to make it better, well, then we'll just give it away.
We'll just give it away. That's right.
Success and progress and learning's got to be accessible.
Yep. Because it matters, right? It's like, especially with
Yeah.
all the things that are under fire and under threat right now in schools and education and our society and all this stuff. I mean, we have our lanes, but it's like, I really believe in the work that I do, that we do.
Yeah.
And being
Right.
able to really offer that to teachers, as hard as it can be, it really is like the honor of a lifetime, right? This career we
Yeah.
get, that we get to help
Yeah.
teachers,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
It's not bad. Anyway, all right. So you have chosen, I believe, questions 2, 3, and 4.
That's right.
And so we're going to start, we're just going to
And I
dive
feel like
in.
I regret it now. Instantly, I regret it because I'm like, these are some hard
I
questions.
know. Do you like that? I tried to get kind of like James Lipton, the actor studio. Do you remember that show where he would ask the same questions to people at the end? Yep. So I tried to get
Yeah,
some.
Roberto does that on his podcast.
Oh, that's cool. All right. So
Anyway.
here is the first question. Question number 2.
Mm,
If you were given 3 wishes to use
oh my
on
God.
the American education system, what would you wish for? And if we don't get to 3, that's okay. But if you were to give 3 wishes, what would you wish for? This is
Okay.
hard because I don't even have an answer to my own question, which I really
I know.
should. As
Right.
like I
I
should,
do
but
too.
I
Don't worry about
don't.
it. You don't need one. Number one for sure is a ban on standardized testing. That one's
There you
easy.
go. There you go. Yep.
That one's easy.
100%. That would be one of mine.
Just done.
Yep.
Done. And we'll figure out what to do instead.
Yep.
Like, for example, what we've done for many years.
Yep.
So there's that. I think.
And why? Because I mean, you're preaching to the choir to me, right? I'm like, that
Right.
absolutely would be one of my wishes. And
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I know that it's been well documented, the horrible effects of
right.
standardized testing, but here they are.
Yeah.
They're still here. People still believe in them.
Still
They
here, bro.
still are the data point that schools and teachers are being judged by, right? What do you
I
think
just
the worst effect of it is?
I don't understand why we act like this has been the way forever.
Right.
Like,
Right.
why do we act like
Right.
nothing ever happened before standardized testing?
Yep.
So anyway, what's the worst effect? I mean, it's absolutely one of the tools to sustain inequity
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
schools, racial, gender, like
Mhm.
class, all of it,
All of it.
right? So much of the research at this point in 2024 shows that like a class is a big determining factor of how well you do.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I forget.
That's
Cameras do that. Right. So like class determines how well you do on these
yep.
exams. We've seen that your neighborhood, so like geography, meaning
Mhm.
like access, so like rural kids are just not going to do as
Mhm.
well. And so these assessments aren't assessing intellectual
Mhm.
ability. They're just
That's right.
showing us things that we already know in terms of society.
That's right.
And then through their bias, they are sustaining particular racial and gender based inequities. So I'm just
That's
like,
right.
what are we doing?
I'm there with you. And
Um,
then also, like, it has this effect on teachers, right? Because like now
right.
teachers are just
Oh,
spending
yeah.
all of their time and energy just focusing on these freaking
So much
tests,
money.
trying to get data that they can't actually use because it's not showing what you think it is, to your point, right? It's like you look at
Well, and
question
also the
5 and it says your kid
timing.
can't draw conclusions. I'm like, my kid can draw conclusions just fine. They just couldn't read this article about a spatula and like answer some random question about it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right, absolutely. I think it is negatively. I don't think it is. Standardized
Mhm.
testing is negatively impacting quality of life.
100%.
So it's not just academic, right? And that's what I think people need to understand is that we're talking about people's quality of life.
That's
So,
right.
for example, in the state of Massachusetts, um, you have to pass the state test in order to graduate high school, in order to get your high school diploma.
Yep. It's the same in New
What are
York.
you going to do?
Yep.
Yeah, I know it's the same in a bunch of different states, but Mass is the one that I know about. So, what are you going to do in 2024 without a high school diploma?
Yeah.
What kind of job can you get? What kind of salary can you have?
Mhm.
Forget salary. What kind of hourly pay are you going to have?
That's right.
How are you supposed to really do well with that?
That's
If
right.
you're a recent immigrant to the United States and it's now a requirement that you pass this stupid test,
Yep. And you
right?
tie
And
that
so,
together, yeah. You tie that together with the bias of the exam, right? And they're
correct.
like, "Here we
Like
go,
I
it's the same
remember
pattern."
distinctly, I remember distinctly sitting in one of those proctoring one of those tests. And where I worked in Lawrence, Massachusetts, it was all predominantly not just students of color, but immigrant students. And where I was in particular in that one building, we had multiple buildings within the school, and
Mhm.
each building had like a thematic thing. And the one that I was at was for all like recent immigrants to the United States. And so this kid comes up to me and the title of this passage, I will never forget this. This was over 10 years ago, Kate, and I still remember because I was like, this picture
Yeah.
exemplifies the problem. It was about to show Mythbusters. So the title is Mythbusters. The only reason I knew about this is because I had seen a couple of commercials.
Right. Right.
And so he comes over and he was like, what does that mean, Mythbuster? What does it mean to bust? Isn't that to
Right.
punch? And I
Right.
was like, he was like,
Oh,
and then that first sentence, it said, myth busting is all in a day's work. He's like, does that mean that he only works for a day? And I
right.
was like, oh.
Right. Right.
Like all of those euphemisms were just out the window for him.
Out the
All of
window.
that colloquial English, right? Like all of that was out. He was not going to get it. He just
Yep.
wasn't, because I can't give
No.
you these answers,
Yep.
right?
And then,
So,
and then he presents himself, right, as someone who doesn't have the literacy skills to be able to do X, Y, Z, when actually all the literacy skills that he has have been cloaked and hidden and buried from view because of these tests and an article on Mythbusters, who no one cares about. No one would
yeah.
argue that being able to read an article on Mythbusters means anything, right?
But then our
Absolutely.
school was labeled underperforming.
Huh?
And so now that's the label that they're supposed to walk around with,
That's it. That's it.
right?
And
And their
quality of
morale
life,
is
right? Your sense of
down.
identity, your sense of who you are as a teacher, as a
Right,
student, as a school community, right? Is all
right.
cloaked with this thing that
Yeah.
doesn't matter. All right. So wish one, get rid of the
Mm.
standardized tests, find other ways to find out what kids know. I love that. Okay. So wish number two for the American education system.
Mm.
You are
It has to do with policy and funding, and I don't even know how to articulate it because it is enraging to me.
Mhm.
So something along the lines of people who are not in schools and haven't been in schools can't design the policy, and then they need to give us the actual funding that we need. Um, and it needs to be spent in ways that teacher and even student voice is involved and parent voice, right? Like,
Mhm.
how is it that I have so many, just even being here in Florida, I'm like, you all spent money on what?
Yeah. And
Right?
how
Like
much money did
DeSantis
you
was
spend on that?
just
Mhm.
DeSantis was just filmed, right? He was speaking somewhere talking about, oh my gosh, I think it was like at a homeschooling thing, okay?
Uh,
Oh, I have so much funding left. I don't even know what to do it with it. And like just boasting about all this funding. And I'm like, we're number 50 something, 48, I don't know, something out of the United States
Yep.
with the lowest teacher funding in the nation.
Yep.
And you're bragging about having funding
That's
left over?
that's it. Because it's like I want money to be spent, right? But there's tons of money in education. I want it to be spent on
There's
like
tons of money in education,
first and foremost, like teacher
period.
salary,
And
period.
like student
Everything will come from
staff,
that. What's it they don't understand? Everything will come from that. If you start paying classroom teachers the way that they deserve and the way that they've earned over the years, everything will flow from that in terms of who
yeah,
you get in the classroom, what they're willing
yeah,
to do, how hard you can push them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I work with teachers. I cannot believe how tired and burnout and demoralized the
Right.
vast majority of them are. And what am I going to do then? Push them to do like harder work? No. All I do now in my work is like, how do I make this easier for you?
Yep. Yep.
That shouldn't
Yep.
necessarily be my role. Do you know what I mean? My role should be a little bit
Yeah.
more like, let me push you, let me like really
Right.
challenge some of your beliefs or the ways that you're going about it. But right now, are you kidding me?
The
Yeah,
conditions right now are just ridiculous. So I think about that, like, where's all this funding? How is it that a principal can say to me, I have no money?
right.
When we know like there's money. So
There's money.
where is your money?
Yep.
Or kids all don't, like, how was it that during COVID all of a sudden everybody could get a Chromebook? Where were these Chromebooks?
I don't know.
Where was this bring a school bus? I remember in our Austin neighborhood, a whole school bus set up right there
Yep.
to just have internet in that
Yep.
neighborhood to make sure everybody got internet. We
Yep.
couldn't do
Where is
that
that?
before and we can't do it after. So it's like all this is what I mean. Where's all this funding that actually goes to the people that
Yep.
need it? The
Yep.
kids, the teachers, and the other staff and administrators in the building, right?
That's
Like
it.
I want a principal to be able to say, we're closing school this Friday, or I'm
Uh-huh.
getting all subs for the day and I'm taking my teachers out and we're gonna
That's
go and we're gonna do our own retreat and we're gonna whatever, right? Like anyway,
Yep, I'm with
funding
you.
maybe
All right, I love
now.
it.
I don't know what
Standardized tests are out. Funding is in. Money in the right
yes,
place because you know where the money is going. You know that it's going to some tech guys. Do you know what I mean?
somewhere.
Like I feel like that's where
Yeah,
the money is going. The money is going to a
I don't
bunch of tech
know.
bros
Yeah,
who are making
companies,
apps.
curriculum companies, and what testing companies, all that. That's where it's
Mhm.
going.
All
And
that.
that also
All right,
answers the
number
question
3.
as to why we're still here. Okay. You know, a wand, my magic wish, not a wand, but I'm envisioning this, like
You can
this
have a
thing.
wand. You can have a wand.
Okay.
I see it. 100%.
I want a
You're a
wand.
wizard. You're a wizard in this imagination. Mhm.
I want for schooling the structure
Yeah.
to just be, and like everybody can rethink it and make it work for their
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
I want every principal and teacher community to
Yep.
sit down and say, you know what? Yeah, we're going to keep the 5 days, but we're going
Yeah.
to structure it like this. Throw out
Yeah.
the window this concept of instructional minutes a year,
Yeah.
because it's actually, I get that we want a certain amount of instruction to happen. I'm with that.
Yeah.
I also, now that I have moved into homeschooling, I'm also like, wait a minute. This does not have to go from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Like
That's
at
it.
all. To
At
the
all.
point that I would say I spent maybe less quote unquote instructional minutes this year, but my
Yep.
son who's in kindergarten is absolutely doing like end of first grade work, maybe
That's
beginning of
awesome.
second grade work.
That's awesome.
Because I could just be like, boom, let's move ahead. Let's do this. Granted, I'm working with one kid and not 25 kids, right?
Sure.
But if we're able to get some extra hands in there, right,
Yeah.
and just set up school differently, I
Yeah.
really do believe we'd be able to do more and better.
100%. You know, there was a brief window of time, and certainly it didn't get perfect by any means. But like New York City had this like round of, they called it like, I think they called it like empowerment or something, where like they collected these like regions within the city, you know what I mean, that were localized. It wasn't this thing of
Okay.
like you're paired with the same like demographic. It was just like, no, you're paired with schools in your neighborhood, in your region.
Okay.
And then people had a lot of latitude, not how to structure the school day even, but just like
Okay.
how to approach stuff, do you know? And like
Mm,
to form like real community of local
I'll take
educators
it.
who
I'll take it.
know their neighborhood, right? Who know
Right.
their kids and who are able to
I
make
love it.
decisions based on that
Yeah.
knowledge. It really
That sounds
speaks to a
great.
lack of trust in schools and teachers, right? All this
Yeah.
control. But it's like this
Yeah.
idea of like, if we
Yeah.
don't micromanage how you're
Yeah.
spending
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
minutes, you're
Yeah.
gonna do acrostic poems all day or something. Do you know what I mean? Or watch movies all day, which there's certainly individuals that we work with who might do that. I may have done that from time to
Hey,
time in my
we
life.
have all done a movie. We've all
Right.
done it.
But like
Yeah.
teachers want to do right by kids.
Right.
Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like every
Right.
teacher I
Right.
meet wants
Right.
to work hard to
Yep.
teach kids. And if
Yep.
you gave them more
Yeah.
power, more control, they could do it
Right.
better. I'm with you. Those
Yeah.
are good wishes.
That's it. That's what I got.
No more testing, lots of money and control.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm
I love
laughing
it.
because that's just not going to happen. But yes.
No, it's not, but that's why it's a wish, and that's why I think you should be the wizard. I do. I think you should be.
Great.
Okay. So you also asked question number 3, which is, what is your favorite and least
Oh,
favorite word in education or phrase or concept? I said this to you already. This could be real loose. You could say whatever you want. You don't have to go by my question.
oh my goodness. Favorite and least favorite. I should have thought about these.
I know. I also have. So I was trying to think of it because as I was talking about, I was planning these conversations and did the first
Right.
couple. I've gotten out of having to answer any of them, but really, I should have an answer myself. You know,
No,
like
fine.
the only one I came up with is, I think my favorite word. It's so cheesy because it's like freaking Ted Lasso, but like the believe right
Mm,
now is a favorite
yeah.
word. It's not a jargony word, but it's one that
I
I
think
like
it's
because I feel like I don't know what we believe in all the time
yeah, yeah.
anymore in education. Do you know what I mean? I feel
Mm,
like we've lost a sense of belief. And yet, when I'm in schools,
yeah.
mostly I'm struck by how beautiful so much of the work is
Yeah.
because of the people in the buildings, right? There's
Mhm,
so much to
mhm,
believe
mhm.
in
Yeah.
these buildings full of kids.
Yeah. I would say that right now, my least favorite word, and this is ever changing, but right now for the past couple years is the word relationships.
Mm. Say more,
Yeah,
Lorena. I
it's
love it. I love it.
it's getting weaponized,
It
right?
is. Like
And
joy
so
was
instead
weaponized.
of
Remember when joy was
right,
weaponized and you're like, "Oh, I
right,
hate joy now. Why do I hate joy? I like
I'm the Grinch.
why do I
Right.
hate relationships? I like relationships, but now
I
no,
love
no. Don't want it. No,
relationships.
yeah, not anymore."
But the word is being used against teachers,
Yep.
right? And so instead of, as
Yep.
adults, taking stock of our context, socio-political,
That's
social,
it.
all the things, right? Financial, like all the difficulties and challenges of what it is to be an American right now, to be just like a person in this country right now. instead of taking stock and instead of remembering that we've come back from a pandemic and are asking kids to act like it never happened,
Yep.
right?
No one wants
Um,
to talk about it.
we won't want to talk about it. We don't want to go back to what happened in 2020. We just want to act like it happened 25 years ago so that we can feel better, right? And like
Mhm.
we're able to do that maybe as adults. Obviously, it's hurting us too because of like all of the statistics, right? But we're asking kids to do that and they're saying no.
No.
And they are acting up and they are acting out and they are tired and sick of all of us. And when you tell a teacher, well, have you built a relationship? It is
Mhm.
offensive at this point.
Mhm. Well, and it
It's
just
like,
puts the labor back
really?
on it. Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. To
Oh,
talk to a kid.
oh yeah, I don't talk to
What
my
a
kids.
phenomenal idea, right?
Crazy.
Um, can we have conversations around like one of the ways I've been changing that is saying like let's build trust
Mhm.
because I think that sometimes people like it has been so washed down and minimized to me having handshakes at the door, and that doesn't mean you have a relationship. That's like
Yeah.
just like a cool thing that I do at my door. Um, but I understand the spirit of that, but that alone isn't it, right? And so
No.
I have talked to folks about like, hey, are you building some trust with some of these kids?
Right.
Because I think that that's a conversation we've been having anyway since before all of this.
Yeah.
Um, but that whole did you build a relationship?
Mhm.
It's just such a cop out.
Well, because the thing for me is that like relationships, like all the relationships in my life that have mattered have been about either like relevance or honesty. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like either I'm in a relationship with you because I relate to you and I like you and I want to be around you, right? We can't control for that in the classroom. I can't be concerned as a classroom teacher whether my kids like me, right? So
right.
that means then that it has to be about honesty. And to your point, I think there's a lot we're
Trust
not
is
being
good.
honest with kids about with school,
Yeah,
right? There's a lot of like this sort of vibe of no, no, no,
yeah,
everything's fine. No, 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 you have to just keep towing the line and doing the
yeah.
things when,
I
to your
mean,
point, the kids are like, I don't see why I should do this
I
anymore,
don't want
right?
to do this.
COVID kind of lifted the veil on a lot of the
Yeah,
not relevant, not useful, not applicable things for young people.
yeah. I mean, to your point, right? Like we have seen people leaving every job
Yeah.
industry.
Yes.
So even adults are like, what is the point of me filing this report for you right now when people are dying around me?
Right. Right.
When I could die from this cold
Right.
that's going around.
Right.
Like, what is the point? Everybody left their jobs. People didn't want to go back.
Yeah.
So we're telling kids, come and read this book.
Yeah.
Come read Sarah Plain and Tall. Come, it
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah.
And then answer these questions.
No, like it's not important
For
to me.
what?
That's right.
For what?
That's right. You know, the other thing about relationships too is like, how about we start with the adults in the building then? Do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to have, or the adults in your community, because if you want to build relationships with students, the best way to build relationships is to make sure that the power structures in our school buildings are like kind
Yeah,
and equitable and caring about each other,
yeah,
right? The kids
yeah,
will learn from that. And I'm in some schools where that's true, right? I'm in
yeah,
schools, I'm sure you are too, where you're like, oh, the culture here rocks, right? This is awesome.
yeah,
And you know what?
yeah,
They are doing fine.
yeah,
They're doing
yeah,
great because they got their
yeah,
priorities in order, right? That a
right,
school building is
right,
a place where we take care of each other first.
yeah. And I
And we
don't want to be a menace, but those schools are all led by women, the ones that I'm talking about, right?
a menace.
I'm not trying to be a menace.
You mean a
I'm not
feminist?
saying that.
A feminist
I'm not
menace?
saying I'm not saying it doesn't exist with male principals. I'm just saying that in my personal experience since 2020, the places where I've been that are like, oh, this place is making sense, are
Yeah,
all led by women of
yeah,
color too.
yeah,
So,
yep, yep. No, I feel
but
that.
anyway,
I feel that.
okay. And then my favorite word,
Yeah.
gosh, I don't know. I think maybe like something like imagine or try. Like I'm hearing folks who are like, okay, this stuff isn't working. I'm gonna try this. And I'm like,
Yep.
yes,
Try.
let's try it.
We've got to try
Let's
something.
imagine that, you know? So I feel like, you know, those
Yeah.
are my happy words right now.
I
Whenever
like
a teacher
try.
or a principal or a curriculum director is like, I want to try, I'm like, yeah, I don't even care what the rest of that sentence is. Let's try it.
That's right. And that sense of
Yeah.
try, what I like about that word too, is that it has the idea of like we could be wrong. Do you know what I mean? There's so
Yeah.
much
We're just gonna take a
surety
risk.
now. Do you know what I mean? Like it's the science of reading. It's this is the way to do it by this material, curriculum materials, all this stuff. And there's so much like certainty. And I wonder about that, right? Because you and
Yeah.
I have been in this business for a while. We've
Yeah.
been teaching for a
Yeah.
bit. I haven't
Yep.
been certain about anything about teaching. Like I have some beliefs that I
Yeah.
seem to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of trying, right? Trial and
Yeah.
error and
Yeah.
reflecting on what's working or
Right.
not working. I love
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I think what you're pointing out comes from this desire to want to have a plan, right?
Yeah.
A leader, probably a school leader, feels like I need to say it with my chest, right? Speak with
Yep.
authority that I know where we're headed.
Yep.
And you can know where you're headed, but you can
Yep.
also be um open, right?
Yep.
You can be flexible in that process of where you're headed and say, I want to hear, I want to check in with all of you as we're going. We're going to try this, we're going to try that. We might change some things. I feel like that is so much more realistic, and it's much easier to do the quote unquote buy-in when
That's
I
right.
know, like, okay, I'm going to have a say in this as a teacher, right? I'm going to have a say in this, and he's got a vision, and we're going to go, and they might know where we're headed, but I get to say if we need to turn or if we need to pause or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's when you really have like everybody involved.
I think that's really, it's also like so much of where we're at right now, it feels like is this crossroads of like, are we able as like a society, but are we able as schools and communities of learning to like listen to all the voices in the room?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, are we able to? And the answer now is like, not really, or we know we should, but we don't know how,
yeah,
especially if you have whiteness in power, if you have all that stuff set up, like it's really hard to create that space. And I'm guilty of it. Like I notice a lot in my PD that I still do a lot of like, I'm presenting, I'm facilitating, I like a lot
yeah,
of directed stuff. And I frame
yeah,
it like, hey, this is a backboard for you to hit against. I'm not saying you have to
yeah.
agree with me, but I'm going to be forceful about my opinions so that you have something to
Mm,
mash up against, right? I'm not saying
yeah,
I'm right, just grapple with these ideas a little bit. But I
yeah,
still sometimes get very like, I'm in charge, of this
yeah, yeah,
PD
yeah,
session. It's hard.
yeah. It is.
It's a good
It
goal
is.
for next
Yeah,
year. All right, last question.
yeah.
What is it? What is your favorite motto? What is it? I
It's
should
like
know.
your motto or
Yeah,
something.
it's a
I don't know why you put
motto.
this.
If you had a motto for teaching right now in our current circumstances,
Yeah.
what would it be?
I don't know if it's a motto, but it's a word. I do more word things, like at the New Year's, my resolution is
I
always just
love
a word
those.
because
Yeah.
it's what it encompasses. But I think that, for this upcoming year, since I want to think forward, for me, it's care.
Yeah.
And and that includes, right, the adults caring for self.
Yes.
We are
Yes.
not called to be martyrs. That's
Yes.
not part of the job description of teaching. We are not called to keep working and doing extra things outside of our job that we're, even if we're getting paid for it. Like, do you have to be the coach right now? Do
Hmm.
you have to run that after school program? Because it's at
Hmm.
the expense of your own family, or
Hmm.
maybe it's at the expense of your own free time, right?
Yep.
Especially if you're not getting paid. So care for self, care for colleagues. That one's really hard.
Yep.
But I think that the more we can think of collective care, I think the better we're going to be.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I know a teacher's having a hard time, instead of me talking about that teacher in the teacher's lounge or saying, man, Kate keeps being absent. Like, look at the kids. The kids are just a mess. Check in with Kate, bro.
Yep. Yep.
Kate, what's up?
Yep. You
Oh, well,
okay?
my mother's at home sick with cancer and I'm the caretaker.
Mhm.
Do you want to share lesson plans? Can I share lesson plans with you so that you don't have to spend time to, right? Like that collective care. And I am a firm believer in you put these good actions out,
Yep.
you will be cared for.
Yep.
Because guess what Kate's going to do when she gets back? She got you.
I got you.
She's
Mm.
gonna appreciate you so much that Kate's
Yep.
going to have you. And if
That's
Kate don't
it.
got you, then maybe
Yep.
she just didn't have it to give. And
Yep.
we've got to be ready to sometimes just give.
Yep.
We
I
got to
feel
care for the kids, right? We got to care for the kids, and not again at the expense of self, because then
Mhm.
that's martyrdom again. But
Mhm.
care for the kids when it comes to being flexible, when it comes to saying, hey, here are some extra resources for you. Go see the counselor. Go see this. Go do that. It don't got to be me, right? But like
Yeah.
caring in a different way that I think we've been doing. Because in our search for do, get it done, turn it in, finish
Mhm.
the unit, like we have
Mhm.
sometimes forgotten about ourselves. We've forgotten about this kid, right? We forgot that like before we teach any subject, before we teach any book, we teach people. Like we're
Yeah.
people teaching other people. It's a bunch of people in a room.
It's a bunch of people in a room. I think about that a lot in schools. You're like, these are children in a building with grown-ups. That's really like that's at the end of
Like
like
if you
these
think,
are
and that
people.
changed. that changed for me when I became a parent. When I
Yes.
became a parent, I was like, man, these kids need snacks all the time. They need milk, they need hugs. And then I
They need
went
to
to
have
school,
fun,
right?
they need fun, they need joy, they
A
need
blanket, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And so I got to work, and it was high schooler, so I'm not gonna give you a blanket or breast milk. But but I was like, but these are somebody's babies, right? Like, how would I act if I was your aunt and
Yep.
we were home? I'd be like, hey, come get some water. Here's some extra leftovers. Are you comfortable there? But we don't do any of that in school.
Yeah, none of it.
And granted, we're not moms at school, we're not, aunties at school, but these are people's kids.
They're still
And
children.
I feel like sometimes we have forgotten that.
I think that's
And that's
really
what I mean by care. It's like we might need to go get a break. Like we might need a snack in here.
it might
like
mean
it's
that
the
we
last
can't
period of the
chase
day.
yeah, it might mean that we can't chase the best scores on the standardized test.
Yeah.
How do we have the courage in our communities, right, to be able to say no, even if that has
No.
some blowback, because we are a community that needs more looseness in
We
what
need
we're
more.
doing.
We need school leaders to do that.
Yes, we do. They have to have
School
the
leaders to
courage to
invest,
be able to do that. Yes.
right? Because one
Yep.
or two teachers will lose a job, one or two teachers will come under fire. A principal says, my school is not doing this
Yep.
and taking that heat, right? Could they get fired? Less likely. Less likely, I think.
But they go under a
You
lot of
know,
pressure. I worked in a district where the
yeah.
superintendent was like, for a while, and this was an affluent community, so he probably could get away with it, but like
Mm,
he was like, I don't care about test scores. And that was
yeah.
his platform for a long time. But they got him. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like it's tough. I really
Yeah.
love that. I think it's one of the things that I've recognized in the last few years, like one of the worst effects of, or both effects and causes of whiteness for me, is the lack of collective care that I know how to engage in. Do you know what I mean? I can really
Mhm.
see how I grew up with that attitude of every man for himself. And
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I care. I care for the people I love. I'm a caring person. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of my
Yeah.
orientation. But that's different from what you're talking about. You're talking about collective care, like
Yeah.
organized care, systems of
Right.
care,
Uh-huh.
prioritizing care, putting
Yeah.
resources into care. I feel like I've learned so much, even from, I mean, I've been part of the queer community for a long time, and there's a lot of collective care in the queer community.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, but I have a lot to learn about that.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
there's this school that I've been working with for years now, and this one teacher was diagnosed with cancer. And, she didn't have enough days or whatever to take, to do her treatments and to stay home. And the principal was like, yes, you do. Like, I'm
yeah,
just simply not going to mark this against you,
yeah, that's it.
period.
That's it.
And some colleagues were like, oh, well, I only have a month left of school. I'll give you my week or whatever it was. And so folks just stepped up and in.
Yeah,
And that teacher healed. She's still there.
that's it.
And that's what happens when you find yourself in community, not just a job, you're more
Yep.
invested. Like
A hundred
kids.
percent.
If I'm
A
in a
hundred
class
percent.
where I feel like I'm a
And
part
like
of
you
this
said, you
space,
get it
I
back.
matter
Like it's
here.
a
When I'm
cycle
absent,
of
people
care,
care. When
right?
I don't do well, people care.
Yeah.
This is not as simple as relationships,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
That keeps them. They're coming back.
Yeah, because it's about systems. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's this through line of this conversation with you and I. It's like, yeah, you can have all the feelings, but traditionally, that's been like the idea of care has been sort of relegated to, well, there's a lot of women in the schools. They'll take care of things. They'll be maternal to everybody. Do you know what I mean? And so it becomes the individual has to care for everyone. But what we need, right, are more systems of care, structures for care, ways that we do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one, man.
Mm, just out here thinking.
If only you were in charge. I think you should be the wizard of education, Lorena. I gotta say,
I'll take it. I'll take it.
it's really good to talk to you. It's good to see you.
Yeah. It's good to chat. It is good to dream about education, and it's good to acknowledge the good work that has happened, is happening, will happen. I just hope that that's enough to keep us all here.
Well, and we have to keep holding on to these ideals
Yeah,
that we have in the way that we know
yeah,
it could be. Because if we let go of that, we've let go, right? We've given
yeah,
up. Like we have to be
yeah,
able to say that we need collective care
yeah,
systems, we need trust, we need systems of equity, we need to get rid of standardized. We have to be able to say those things over and over and
yeah.
over again. because it's the
Yeah.
truth, right? And that
Yeah.
if we could shift
Yeah.
things, schools would be better,
Yeah.
kids would be better, teachers would be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's to the future.